So I've been thinking, what if the perfect virtual tabletop has always been there right in front of our eyes and we just didn't know it? Follow me, I'm going to talk about it. So at long last, I think my virtual table roadshow is coming to a close. And I've done a lot of virtual table reviews and I've done a lot of assessments of the various tools that we have available as online dungeon masters. And I think I'm going to settle on this one that I started my journey with way back about 2 years ago. And it's none other than Google Slides. Now hold on a second. I know you're thinking, Dwayne, Google Slides, come on, man. We've had this for so long, and yes, lots of people have done it and lots of people have tried it. It's just not going to cut it. Well, I beg to differ. And there's a couple of things about Google Slides that I think a lot of people are missing. One is an actual canvas. Google Slides actually presents a clean slate as far as you being able to express your Dungeon Master skills and how you want to bring D&D to your players. It doesn't have a set of rigid tools that you have to follow and you have to learn. It's almost like a clean slate that you can sort of impose your own creative ideas on. Now, some people might use Google Slides as far as a theater of the mind aspect, and some people might try and replicate Roll20 or other virtual tables with a grid-based system. The way that I'm using Google Slides is very unique, and it actually harkens back to the old days when I used to read graphic novels and get involved in comic books and such. This Google Slide template that I'm about to show you can actually be a default for theater of the mind or tactical-based gameplay. Let's have a look, shall we? Now, Google Slides inherently has a lot of excellent tools that you can use without having to worry about getting into graphics and special effects and such like that. I'm going to show you right here, but the first thing you want to do is create a background for your slides. Now, I've gone back and forth between different types of backgrounds, and most certainly you can actually go and just have a default background. So if you are a simple person and you want to just have black for your players, or if you want to go in and have a little bit of a brighter look to your slides, you can do so as well. Now, one of the things that I try to do with my slide VTT is I actually try to create sort of a tabletop theme, or kind of the feel of being in a tabletop. So for me, I've gone in and I've actually saved a sort of a wood style looking tabletop, old school tabletop type image. You can go in here and go choose image, and you can actually go in and browse through your library of existing images. And you can see here that I've actually gone and imported a sort of a fancy wood style tabletop. And this is the tabletop that my players are going to see, and I'm going to overlay my images and graphics on top of this. Now, as far as some of those tools that I mentioned earlier, without having any graphic skills or access to any Photoshop type programs, you can actually go in and use the inherent visual tools that Google Slides provides. Right up here is your shapes option. You can use a variety of these shapes to pinpoint things in the game. I like to use circles to indicate hit points, initiative, things like that for my players. You can even go in and change the coloring of these boxes. Very versatile. If you've used Microsoft PowerPoint, you're going to see a very similar layout here. But using these for a virtual table is quite genius. Things like call-out boxes, you'll see in a little bit in how I use those. But shapes inherently can be used to just display information for your players. You know, if you want to have hit points listed, you can do it in a shape box. There's a multitude of these things, and if you get creative, you can actually use some of these to your advantage when using Google Slides as a virtual table. The next step that I like to do is create a landing page. Now, nothing in Google Slides prevents your players from moving ahead as far as looking at the slides that you may have prepped in the future. So it's really important that you create an alternate Google Slides, which is your Dungeon Master notes that you can copy and paste to. Just make sure that the players are only sharing, or you're only sharing the player's version of the Google Slides. You'll see here that I've created a very interesting landing page that harkens back to playing tabletop games the way I did when I was younger. Some dice images as well as a player's handbook and even a pencil. Moving along, you'll see that I also use other things that are going to basically, again, try to evoke the tabletop feel. So if you have any kind of graphics that you want to put in front of the players, whether that be a map or whether that be a handout, this is a great way to do it. Now, I've embellished it again, trying to create that tabletop feel that you might have if you're all sitting around the table. So if you do want to communicate to your players via non-verbal, whether that be an NPC or whether that just be some information that you want to put into the game. And again, non-verbal communication in a role-playing game is not the end of the world. In actual fact, sometimes non-verbal is something that your players might appreciate a little bit more than constantly hearing their Dungeon Master ramble on and on and on. So I like to use a balance of non-verbal and verbal communication when I'm dealing with my players. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, this is all great with, circles and squares and boxes, but how do I really invoke the virtual table feel? Well, I'm going to show you how I integrate using a tabletop map into my gameplay. Now, I said earlier that Theater of the Mind is one option for using Google Slides as a virtual table, and that is true. But if you want to evoke some imagination, it's always good to have a good supply of visuals on hand so that they can actually see sort of what you're trying to describe to them. Here's a basic example of what an actual game might look like if you're using maps and tokens to sort of simulate a Roll20 type situation. There is no Snap to option, obviously, so these tokens are basically scaled to the size to fit on the map. Now again, I'm trying to keep the tabletop feel, so I'm implementing things like dice and logos and of course that background wood table kind of look. But I'm using this as a supplement as far as the visual and also the Theater of the Mind gameplay. There's a variety of different callout options. You can have thought bubbles, and this might add a little bit of flavor to your narrative. Now over here you're going to see that they can move their tokens in line with the grid, and because there's no snap to, obviously you have to make sure that everybody's on the same page when it comes to moving and such like that. Here's another example of how I've implemented Google Slides into an actual VTT. This is a combat encounter that's just finished up, but you'll notice that I've got a numerous amounts of graphics that evoke a VTT style image to the players, while still maintaining the fact that they can move around and not have to learn any systems that they would in such like Roll20 or Foundry. Now, I've created these assets in Photoshop and I've supplemented them with Google Slides. You'll notice that the boxes here are in Google Slides, and the players can edit those freely by adjusting their hit points. Tokens still are scaled to fit the map, and I've even put some rules up here to help. Each slide that I do is situational for the players in the adventure that we're in. Again, there's no learning. This is a very simple process. The players just need to be shared the document and they can just visually see this. You can either have them edit or you can just have them view. You don't need to give them full control over the slide if you're worried about them moving things around and whatnot. Initiative tracking is done as well, and I've got an initiative tracker over here. Something that D&D Beyond has yet to implement, and again, it's a very easy thing to do in Google Slides. It's a simple matter of going and inserting a table, adding in the data fields, and away you go. This is so smooth that it's so dreamy that, you often wonder why you're spending hours and hours learning another VTT when you've got something simple like this just on hand. Welcome to the Swamps of Desolation. Swamps of Desolation is an actual campaign that I've created, which is a homebrew. Now, again, like my previous example, I've gone and created a cover page and a landing page for the players. Showcases the player tokens as well as my own personal cover for the adventure that I'm running. And again, evoking the feel of actually playing at a table. Now, you're going to see as we move through this that I don't actually have any battle grids. The players are actually playing this campaign as a Theater of the Mind experience, but I'm using Google Slides to supplement their imagination and really evoke that feel of playing around the table. You'll see here that I'm giving them sort of flavor text and imagery pulled from the internet, obviously, and just to supplement some of my storytelling. Very much like a graphic novel style of telling a story. Right here we have a Theater of the Mind slide. Now you'll notice that this is a combat encounter, but I don't actually have a battle grid set up. What I do here in this situation is I sort of put what everybody is expecting to see on a virtual table, grid-based, but I put all the tokens and the things arranged in sort of a strategic way so that they align with where the monsters are as far as who they're focusing on, the players, and what they're doing. In this situation, I have a giant crocodile in the swamp, and I have a small group of lizard folk warriors that are sort of descending upon the players. Getting into the thick of the combat, you'll see that I've moved the tokens around to represent where the creatures are attacking and who they're actually fighting. Over here you'll see that I have one of my players attacking the crocodile, and his token is just moved right next to the crocodile's token. There's no indication of movement, feet, things like that. That's all stuff that I tell the players while I'm doing my narrative descriptions. Down below you'll see that I have other players' tokens that are away from that scene. That tells me that they're actually not involved in that combat. Again, supplementing the scene with various images pulled from the internet and popular media just helps the players really get into the game without just hearing me drone on and on about descriptions and what's going on via Theater of the Mind. Now, there's still a few missing ingredients when it comes to a complete virtual table. We have the dice rolling, we have the character sheet, and of course we have the video and voice communication. Now, D&D Beyond will take care of most of the heavy lifting when it comes to your character sheet, as far as dice rolling goes as well. Now, voice, I prefer to use Discord. Currently, my Discord subscription is the Nitro, and Nitro actually gives me a very good quality voice, and if I need it, video streaming as well. Not only that, but I also have screen sharing if I really need it. So all of these things combined can make a very, very compelling and very easy to use virtual table. Now, of course, we all wish that we all had everything under one hood, and that's the dream.
But when it comes to just a free virtual table with a plethora of actual easy to use tools, not only that, but an insane amount of creativity, and everything is really easy to use. And that's the key when running a virtual table for your players and for you. If you like what you see and you want to use Google Slides for yourself, I'm going to give you a jump start. I put a link to a Google Slides that I've created down below, and it's a good way to get started with Google Slides VTT. I've put in some assets that I've created myself, as well as assets that I've purchased that you can use in your VTT. Make sure you look after this. This is a link that everybody's going to have access to. So when you go down and click on it, make sure you save a copy for yourself and just start having fun with it. If you want to have further information about how to use Google Slides as far as an effective VTT, you can send an email to me right down below here. I hope you're all having fun playing Dungeons & Dragons out there, and we'll talk to you soon.
Before you go, I need your help. I'm trying to grow the exposure of what we do here at Maverick Games. My goal is to actually bring information to parents and students for fun, academics, and even support of neurodivergency. Please subscribe and make sure you click on those notifications. I don't do paid ads or sponsorships. I hope that you can find content here that's enjoyable for yourself and maybe others. Thank you very much, and thanks for tuning in.